Good evening and welcome to our fifth annual COVID Memorial Day Vigil. My name's Kristin Urquiza, and I'm the Executive Director of Marked by COVID, joining you from San Francisco. So before we jump in, as I said, keep yourself muted. We'll have a section where we'll invite everyone to speak and share the name of your loved one. Second thing is that, this is a sacred space for remembrance. And we ask everyone to protect its dignity. So anyone who's disruptive will be removed without warning. So let's begin. This is the fifth time we've come together like this. 5 years of showing up, 5 years of saying their names, 5 years of refusing to let the world forget. I want to take a moment to let that sink in, because what this community has done year after year is extraordinary. You have kept this vigil alive, and that matters. And I want to be real for a moment. There is a lot going on in the world right now. There always is. And I know some of you may have had to talk yourself into being here tonight. Others may have had friends or someone in your life say, oh, well, you're still doing that? So I just want to say this clearly. This is our time. Right now, we are here for this. These next 40 minutes or so belong to us, the people we lost, the grief we carry, the community we've built together, and all the other countless losses we endured. Everything else can wait. Being here, choosing to show up, is not small. It is one of the most powerful things we can do. Because when we gather like this, we draw a line in the sand. We say, this happened, it was real, our people were real, they mattered. 6 years ago, COVID changed everything. For me, it became permanent on June 30th, 2020, when my dad, Mark, died alone in a hospital without me. So many of you know what that's like. Being separated from the people you love most as they fight for their lives. Watching someone you love die through a screen. Not having a funeral. Being asked if they had a pre-existing condition or if they were vaccinated. Losing a parent or both. Losing a spouse, a friend, a child. Grieving in total isolation while the rest of the world debated whether what was happening to us was even real. That is why we started Marked by COVID, to make visible the horrific pain that so many of us were experiencing behind closed doors, so that the world could see the truth of what was happening and so that others might be spared the same fate. Tonight, we remember my dad and the more than 1.2 million Americans and the millions more globally lost to this virus. Every single one of them had a name, a story, a life that mattered, and people who loved them left behind. And I want to say this, people are still getting sick. People are still dying. People are still living with the long-term effects of this virus every single day. So when we gather tonight, we are not marking the end of something. We are bearing witness to something that is still happening while also honoring everyone and everything we have already lost. Because COVID didn't only take lives, it shattered them. There were so many kinds of losses: health, jobs, homes, relationships, years of childhood, the ability to be present for the people who needed you. I know many of you are carrying those types of losses tonight, and you belong here as well. This space holds all of it. So as we get started, I'd like to share a short video voices from our community on why COVID Memorial Day matters. Excuse me while I get this started.
My dad was everything to me. You know, he was sweet, he was strict, he was funny.
My father, he was the strongest man I ever knew.
She was intrepid. She was fearless, and she traveled the world. She was highly opinionated.
He was just a really kind man. He once bought me the book, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and that's really how he lived his life.
So my mom was an immigrant who came into this country, who had big dreams for my future and my brothers.
2021, on April 29th, I lost my father, Manuel Juarez.
My loss was my father. My father was 81 years old.
I lost my father, Charles Krebs, in August of 2020.
I lost my mom due to COVID.
I lost my only sister, my oldest sister, to COVID in October of 2020.
Still, every once in a while, I think I miss calling him when things are going well, when things are going bad. It breaks my heart. We didn't have to go through this. Not all of us. This hurt people. This killed people. It is important to memorialize them because we as a country are so willing to forget.
Still not ever had a memorial service for her, and it's been nearly 2 years. It is critical that we remember and we publicly memorialize these deaths. These huge numbers represent real people, our loved ones.
I don't like looking at the number. I like hearing it as people, knowing who they were. And that's why I started, researching organizations like Marked by COVID was the one that struck to me. And, we talk about them as people, not as numbers. Creating a Memorial Day will be a day that we can all come together and just remember, everyone that's been impacted.
It's really important to remember, first of all, the people, because we cannot erase 1 million Americans, but mostly, there's so many other people across the world who's lost. We can't forget that.
And having a National Memorial Day is a way for us to reach out to others who are going through the same thing and will be going through the same thing for many years, missing their loved ones, but it's a chance for all of us to come together and mourn communally in a safe place.
It's, bigger than just us. It's, it's a memory, it's remembering, it's fighting for them.
It's vitally important that we cannot just let this go without them being memorialized, noted for their passing, noted that this is an event the United States endured.
My name is Tara.
Harry.
I'm Eleanor Bravo.
Nora Faddis.
And that's why I'm marked by COVID.
And I am marked.
I am marked.
And that is why I'm marked by COVID.
I want to say thank you to Tara, Bianca, Eleanor, George, Nora for sharing your stories in that video. And I'd also like to introduce someone I recently just met, whose story speaks to one of the most under-recognized parts of this pandemic, the communities that formed out of grief, the strangers who found each other when no one else understood. Kelly Owens will be giving live remarks tonight. I want to thank you for being here, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Kelly. If you'd like to come off mute.
Good evening, everyone. Hi from right near Pensacola, Florida, where it's colder than you would think it would be. Um, like so many of you, my life was reshaped completely by COVID-19 and the loss of my husband, Chris. We had been married for 16 years, and for the 38 days that he was on a ventilator, and we were kept apart by protocols. And for the first 3 months after his death, I was completely alone. Travel restrictions, my family was hundreds of miles away. I was by myself. There was no hand to hold, no one to hug, no one to sit in that fear and uncertainty with me. But in the middle of my grief isolation, I joined a Facebook group, um, quickly became a moderator, and found my group of women, some of whom are here tonight. There's 6 of us, and we started connecting in late 2021 and early 2020, and we have been in constant communication since then. It's been almost 4 years of them being my witness. They're the women who, even though we're scattered across the country, we understand. We see it in each other's eyes. We see it in our soul. We feel the weight each other carries. We've been angry together. We've sobbed together. We've laughed. We've talked about the stupid things people say to us. 3 a.m., 3 p.m., whoever, whenever we need it, we reach out and someone always answers. And that's what makes this grief unique, is that the world has moved on. It's something so casual. People say it's a punchline. It's a marker in time. It's an inconvenience. I'm a teacher, and today I even spoke with a student who raged about government control of healthcare and, of course, used COVID as her example. And I had to talk about it academically, while inside it was just awful. And no one seems to, it's that sharp pain that steals your breath for a moment, because what for them is just a blip on their life's radar, for us is just this huge demarcation line between the life we had and the one we don't want. So even though we're here and we're such a small group, we're not remembered the way other people are remembered. But I hope that you all of you will find people that I was very lucky to find, where you got empathy without judgment, where you can find understanding without having to justify vaccine status, comorbidities, or, just saying what they died of. I don't know how many of you didn't even put what they died of in their obituaries because you just didn't want the. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being gentle with ourselves and with each other.
Kelly, thank you so much for being with us tonight and for sharing your testimony and the power of community. We're going to continue our testimonials with some remarks from 2 more of our community members, both via video. Karyn Bishof will be joining us to share the realities of what it's like to live with long COVID, representing the millions of people who survived the virus, but whose lives have fundamentally been changed by it. And Kimberly Jones will share about losing her father to COVID and speak to the importance of establishing a national COVID memorial.
Hello, everybody. My name is Karyn Bishof, and I'm a person living with long COVID since March 2020. I'm also the founder and president of the COVID-19 Longhauler Advocacy Project. I want to begin by thanking Kristin and the Marked by COVID team for inviting me to speak today and for the incredible work they continue to do for this community. Your leadership in honoring lives lost, amplifying stories, and partnering in the long COVID space matters deeply. I'm grateful for your partnership and for the space you've created for remembrance and accountability. Today, we gathered for COVID Memorial Day to remember the millions of lives lost to COVID-19 and to honor the lives forever changed. Behind every number is a name, a face, a family, and a space at the table that will never be filled the same way again. We remember the parents who never came home, the grandparents whose stories we still carry, the healthcare workers who gave everything, the friends and the neighbors whose absence still echoes. We honor those who have passed away from long COVID, an estimate of over 5,000 several years ago, whose data has continued to disappear. Long COVID is a serious, chronic, disabling, and potentially fatal condition that can follow even a mild or asymptomatic COVID-19 infection. It is not rare, it is not resolved, and it is not behind us. By fall of 2022, more than 3/4 of the US population had already been infected, with nearly 1 in 5 developing long COVID. There are tens of millions of people in the United States and hundreds of millions more people globally who are living with long COVID and the consequences of a COVID-19 infection. Since 2020, US disability rates have risen 35% in alignment with the disability caused by long COVID. Long COVID has surpassed asthma as the chronic condition in children, with 14 to 20% of children developing long COVID. 6 years into the pandemic, the consequences are clear. Mass death, mass disability, and a failed and continually failing public health response has impacted the world for decades to come. There are still no cures, and there are still no treatments for long COVID. The same virus leaves the COVID bereaved and those impacted by long COVID in the same place, fighting for our lives, for recognition, and for change, honoring those lost and preventing more from succumbing to the impacts of COVID infection. Today, on this COVID Memorial Day, we honor those lost. We honor those grieving. We honor those angry and determined to drive change. We honor their memory by continuing to fight for ourselves personally, for public health, and for all others impacted. Tomorrow, we invite you to honor those impacted by long COVID and join us throughout the entire month of March in standing with the long COVID community. You can find programming on our website under the LCA month tab, and with the COVID bereaved and COVID conscious and long COVID community standing together, we can truly drive change. Advocacy is how we carry memory forward. We honor the millions we have lost by continuing to work for those still impacted by long COVID. And those living with long COVID, honor those lost by pushing for prevention, better treatments, and real solutions. Advocacy is how we carry memory forward. Today, we remember the grief. We remember with honesty, and we remember with commitment. Thank you.
Thanks, Kristin. Thanks for allowing me to share about my family's experience with COVID-19. On February 22nd, 2021, my father, Carl Winston Jones of New Haven, Connecticut, was scheduled to get his first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. Instead, on that day, he was actually admitted to Yale New Haven Hospital with COVID-19. About 2 weeks later, on March 8th, 2021, he passed away. That makes him one of the million Americans who have died because of this awful virus. And even in speaking about those who've died, we often don't even speak about those like my brother's mother-in-law. People have had COVID-19 who have survived, but now deal with the debilitating impacts of what we call long COVID, which has severely limited her ability to work and maintain what was previously a very active lifestyle. I believe that a large reason for the spread of the virus is not just misinformation and fear, but also a collective amnesia, because there really is no modern memory of pandemics of the past. According to the New York Times, save for a small plaque in Colorado and a memorial bench in Vermont, there are no memorials of the last deadly virus to decimate the United States, the Spanish flu of 1918. And unless people's parents or grandparents told them stories, as did mine, there's no recollection of the fear of the polio in the 1950s and 60s and the possibility of end up getting trapped into an iron lung. And even as a member of Generation X myself, I find it somewhat amusing that younger millennials and members of Generation Z don't know anything about having chickenpox parties, because we managed to virtually eradicate chickenpox through vaccination by the time they had reached grade school. And so I say all of this to urge everyone to fight for the establishment of a national COVID memorial, both a day of remembrance as well as a physical memorial. Every year, our nation stops to remember the horrors of 11, and rightfully so. We host parades and wave flags for Memorial Day in May. However, the loss of life from COVID-19 eclipses the number of folks killed on September 11th. And we are on track to rival the number of US casualties from all of our wars combined. So I simply make the request that don't let my dad, don't let Kristin's dad, don't let any of our loved ones just be a nameless, faceless number. They deserve to be more than a footnote to history. And I think that regardless of a political affiliation, we can all agree that we should honor the memories of those we've lost. Thanks.
Thank you, Karyn and Kimberly. Every one of these community stories, loss, long COVID, the communities we've built from strangers to survive, are all part of why we do this work, to honor victims, support survivors, and advance the common good. What Kimberly is describing, the need for a place where our loved ones are recognized and remembered, is exactly what we are building. We created the Marked by COVID lens, an augmented reality experience that powers the National COVID Memorial. Families submit remembrances, a photo, a name, a tribute in their own words, and those remembrances become part of a memorial that anyone can visit anywhere. And we've been collecting these stories through our Remember Everyone campaign, going door to door, tabling at community events, and partnering with local organizations, working towards the day when every one of the 1.2 million people we've lost is known by name. Here is a sneak peek at Remember Everyone.
I'm Kristin.
And I'm Ryan. We're with Marked by COVID, the nation's largest network of COVID grievers.
1 million lives were lost. 1 million lives that didn't have to be lost.
It was preventable.
It's so tragic. People don't even think about it, you know.
Entonces, lo que ustedes andan haciendo es como si recordar recuerdos de gente y pasarlo a la historia.
Exacto, para que esto no vuelva a pasar.
No vuelva a pasar.
Sí,
Claro.
perdón.
Thanks, everyone. And thank you so much to our speakers once again, Kelly, Karyn, Kimberly, and everyone else who's shared their remembrance to be part of the National COVID Memorial. What you just saw, Remember Everyone. Going to talk a little bit about, before we transition in our candle ceremony, also share a little bit more about where Marked by COVID's work stands. We've already collected more than 20,000 remembrances, and we won't stop until every one of the 1.2 million is known, not as a statistic, as a human being. This memorial belongs to everyone across backgrounds, across communities, across income. It is designed to give us a voice in how our loved ones are remembered. And through locally designed monuments It will make visible the full scale of what this pandemic did to us, because so much of it happened behind closed doors, invisible to the rest of the world. We are laying groundwork right now for a permanent memorial in New York City, the epicenter of the pandemic. And we're also building partnerships in Ohio, California, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Mexico, and Arizona for local monuments where families are pushing hard for their communities to be remembered. Everywhere we go, people show up. They've been wanting for someone to ask them to tell them their story. We've already documented more than 500 acts of memorialization across the country, with already dozens of permanent memorials, more than any pandemic. As Kimberly shared, the 1918 flu has 2 tiny memorials in the entire United States. We already have dozens, and we are just getting started. COVID Memorial Day, the first Monday in March, is now officially recognized in more than 13 states and over 250 cities across the country. We've introduced bipartisan federal legislation to establish national recognition. And that happened because people like you walked in our city councils and state houses and said, recognize us. And they did. And I want to acknowledge that we don't yet have national recognition. And I know that's frustrating. Believe me, I know. But every city that's passed a resolution, every state that has said yes, every local memorial that happened because someone in this community refused to give up. Marked by COVID has not walked away from this fight, and we are not going to. And I know that if we stay with it, we will get there. And finally, a note on the children left behind. More than 350,000 known children in this country lost a caregiver to COVID. California's HOPE accounts $115 million in baby bonds for COVID orphans and foster youth are going live this year. This will provide seed funding in children's names that they can use to start building a future. And studies show that when young people know that investment is coming, it changes their outlook about what's possible for them. Our families made this happen, generating tens of thousands of public comments that shaped this policy into law. And we're working to bring this to other states, New York, Massachusetts, Colorado, and beyond, so that every child who lost a parent to this pandemic gets the support that they deserve. None of this would be possible without the generous support of our financial backers. So to those of you who have supported us thus far, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We will now transition into our candle lighting and vigil ceremony. So I invite everyone to find a candle and light it. Now, we are about to share images from the Marked by COVID lens created from remembrances that families have submitted to be included in the National COVID Memorial. We've been touring in cities across the country. We've had talks at Harvard and Michigan State University. We've talked to communities in California, Arizona, and beyond, spreading the word about the memorial in our community. This video that we're about to watch together, as part of our candle lighting ceremony, is about 6 minutes long. 1 minute for each year since COVID changed our world. Now, during the video, I invite you to come off mute and say the name of your person. Say it out loud. You don't have to wait to be called on. Just say their name whenever you're ready. And because there's so many of us here tonight, please just share their names so that everyone has a chance to be heard. There may be many voices at once. There may be moments of silence. That's the point. A chorus of names spoken together, moments of silence, moments of chorus, all for the people that we love. And after you shared their name, please mute yourself again. And if you wouldn't like to speak out loud, please put your person's name in the chat instead. Every name matters, no matter how it's shared.
James Lear.
Vincent Chalesko.
Denny Chenoweth.
Greg Garibay.
My husband, David Casares.
Can only remember
My brother, Robert Marquette.
The
My
love of my
sister-in-law,
life,
Yolanda
Green.
Cortez.
My husband, Kenneth Green.
Stephen Brett Moore.
My mother, Joyce Covell.
Say young.
There's David.
My friend Wayne Green.
Our cousin, Fred Perez.
My husband, Jim Doyles.
No, we do this. We take them.
My husband, Lenny Mendez.
My mother, Betty Dam.
My husband, Jason Guerin.
Just tell me when you're.
My mother, Peggy Will.
Jimmy Munoz.
Jimmy Munoz.
My husband, Joe Coleman.
My husband, Joe Monty.
My sister, Anna Jarvis.
Johnny Paredes.
Armand Fidelino Ramirez Ibarra.
My husband, Michael Wright.
My mother, Amalia Martinez.
Our mom and grandma, Carol Press.
My mom and dad, Maria and Cipriano.
My mom, Irene Scangarello.
My husband, Lloyd Porter.
My father, Clifford Ballard Jr.
My mother, Peggy Will.
My mother, Carol Ann Philippek.
My brother, Nicholas John David Cook.
My husband, Christopher Oakes.
My mother, Peggy Will. My mother, Peggy Will.
My mom, Shirley Zeich.
My husband, Denny Chenoweth.
My father, Robert Covell.
My husband, Waldemar Gonzalez.
My mother, Peggy Will.
Our mom, Patricia Clark.
dad, Urquiza.
My dad, Russell Murray.
My cousin, Martha Kramer, and my friend's daughter, Katie Abel.
My father, Jerome E. Casper.
My mom,
My son, James.
My wife, Margaret Will.
Thank you, everyone. That was beautiful.
my mom, Margaret Will.
Thank you all so much for saying their names. For everyone we named and for so many others that have yet to be said. Thank you all for holding silence with one another as well. I want to come back to where we started. This is our time, and you showed up. For the 5th year, you are still here. Some people may tell you it's time to move on, but we know that moving forward and remembering are not opposites. We carry the people we lost with us in how we live, in what we build, in the fact that we keep showing up in rooms like this one. And what I know after 6 years of doing this work is that the truth of what happened during this pandemic, the scale of it, the suffering, the isolation, the loss, most of the world never saw it. It happened in hospitals with no visitors. It happened in homes where we grieved in isolation. It happened behind closed doors. And that's exactly why we build memorials, to make the invisible visible, to recalibrate who is remembered, to make sure that the truth of what our families went through is not erased, not minimized, not forgotten, so that the world has the proper perspective on what happened. We do this because we believe in something simple. A nation that learns from crisis protects everyone every day. That is our vision. Better systems, better care, infrastructure that works for all, a future that honors the past instead of running from it. So to every single one of you on this call, you are not alone in your grief. You are part of something. And what you are part of is building something that will outlast all of us. And I can't think of a better way to honor each and every one of the legacies of the people that we lost. So before we say goodnight, I do want to take a moment to also pass the hat. This is our annual evening together, but Marked by COVID works the other 364 days a year to make sure that we are not forgotten, collecting remembrances, working to build memorials, pushing forward projects, advocating for long COVID patients and funding for research and fighting for the children left behind, showing up in communities across the country that are often forgotten. That work only happens because people like you pitch in. So there's a link in the chat right now, and if you can give, please give, be it $5, $50, whatever it is. If you can give monthly, that's even better. That's what keeps these work going between vigil to vigil. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for saying their names. And thank you for showing up for this 5th COVID Memorial Day Vigil. The recording of tonight's vigil will be shared by email, along with other ways to stay connected. And if you'd like to come off mute again to say goodbye from your city, please do so. Good night from San Francisco.
Good
Good
night
night
from Los
from
Reno,
Angeles.
Nevada.
Good night from Hartsdale, New York.
From Tucson, Arizona.
Good night from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Good night from Neosho,
Good
Missouri.
night from
Good night
Staten
from
Island, New
Texas.
York.
Good night
from New York.
From Baltimore,
Kansas
Maryland.
City. Good night from Michigan.
Pittsburgh.
Night
Good night from Alabama.
You
Good
will
night
live
from
Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Good night from Orlando, Florida. Good night from Dayton,
Good
Ohio.
night from Tennessee.
Good night from
Baton
Chicago,
Rouge,
Illinois.
Louisiana.
Good night from Sierra
Good
Madre,
night.
California.
Good night from Pittsburgh.
Good night from Pensacola, Florida.
Good night from Roundup, Montana.
Good night from Puerto Rico.
Good night
Good
from
night.
New York City.
Good night from New Jersey.
Good night from Staten Island, New York.
Good night from North Carolina.
Thank you so much. Good night from Pittsburgh.
Good night from Pittsburgh.
Good night from Washington, D.C.
I hope you all remember that you're not alone in this. And from those cities we just heard from across the country, we're everywhere. So as Kelly said, find your community, and in the meantime, continue to show up. Thank you all so much for being here tonight as we wrap up. Sending you so much love as we mark this occasion, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you, Kristin.
Thank you.
I love you, Kristin.
Love you, Lucy.
Thank
Bye,
you,
everyone.
Kristin.
Thank you, Kristin.
Thank you
Appreciate
all.
it so much.
Thank you, everyone. God Thank you, bless. everybody. God bless you all.